Hi, everybody, and welcome to another recording for my podcast. Hi, everybody. I've been doing podcast interviews recently, so I haven't had a lot of opportunity to do just a solo chat lately. So I thought I'd pop in today and talk about something that is occurring to me in my world these days, and it's comparison. So that's the bottom line, comparison. But I also want to talk a little bit about grammar. So it doesn't seem that it goes together, but I promise you there will be a connection. And as always, if you have any questions or comments or anything you'd like to add, please feel free to do that in the chat. And this will be recorded and then edited. Audio will be edited for my podcast, Circle Up and Get Real. So you can find that probably tomorrow, wherever you get podcasts. So with that, I'll do the countdown and we'll go. 3, 2, 1. Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 158 of Circle Up and Get Real, where we talk about things that matter with people who matter. And today, you, the podcast audience, are the people who matter. I don't have a guest today for an interview, so I'm going to just talk about something that occurred to me this week that I think is a really great topic for any of us to think about, and it's comparison. So I'll lay it out that way and say it's comparison. But I'm thinking about this because I'm thinking about the word too, T-O-O, as a comparison word. And I saw a TikTok video or something this week about a little boy who was writing. Looked like he was doing homework, and he was crying. And it said, "What? I have to write that?" The mom was saying, "Write the word too." And he wrote T-O. And his mom said, "No, it's T-W-O." And he was just crying, saying, "Why is it W? Go talk to somebody. They have to change that." And I was so with that little boy because it doesn't make any sense. We've got T-O, we've got T-O-O, we've got T-W-O. Why would there be a W in the number 2? It doesn't make sense. So that just got me thinking about grammar, about the English language, and about how crazy it is and how there are so many words that have similar spellings but are pronounced differently, blah, blah, blah. All of that to back up, and get to this place of being too much or too something, T-O-O, which is a word that compares. And so I wanted to talk about comparison here just shortly, and this won't be a real long conversation today. I think it was Theodore Roosevelt who said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." And when I hear that, I completely relate. Because if I'm always looking to compare myself to something else, I have no space in my awareness for joy. Joy has no comparison. Joy is present in the moment, without thinking about what is not present or what could be present. It's just being present. And so I'm thinking about the word too, like I'm too much or too little or too old or too young. And last week on the podcast, I interviewed Lisa Connors, and she was talking about, "You're never too old to do anything. I'm so glad that you had your chill out event at 60 years old, Jodee. That's great." And I started thinking, am I really old? Like she would say, "You're not too old to do that." It never even occurred to me that I was too old to do that. So then I started thinking about how many things am I too old, too young, too tall, too short? And then it was all about comparison. And I thought, well, no wonder if I've ever had any FOMO, fear of missing out, it's because I'm comparing myself to someone else. And how often do we do that? We watch YouTube videos, we watch social media, we watch basketball games, and one person is better, or one team, I guess, is better than the other team, and they win, and there are more points, and there's this comparison game all the time. I prefer this one over that one. That one's too ripe. That one's too not ripe. I mean, when I'm buying fruit, there's just this crazy standard that somebody has said somewhere out there that everything should be, I don't know, average. The average of all of the things. And then I wonder, how often are we pursuing something that would have us be some kind of average? Because there's somebody out there saying you're too much. There was a meme, today's International Women's Day apparently, and there's a meme that I saw, a cartoon of a woman and a man, and the man is saying, you're just too much. And she's saying back to him, then you go find yourself some average. Because too much compared to what? Compared to what? Who said there was this standard against which we compare ourselves? And so if your light is too bright for someone, compared to what? And that then reminded me of a song that my friend Barbara McAfee wrote and sang a few years ago called That, Compared to What? And I'll put that in the actual podcast so you'll hear this song. And the lyrics of that song are compared to what? Compared to who? What is the standard that you're measuring up to? Compared to what? Compared to who? Nobody else is just like you. That's how the lyrics go. And I think in this game of comparison, we have lost our unique abilities, our talents, our gifts, our strengths, the things that we can provide to the world that are different, because we're all different. And if we are worried about being too much for someone, then of course we're going to put our gifts in a box or put our light under a bushel or whatever, you've heard it said before, we do. And that's where comparison can be really, really dangerous. I was thinking also of a book called Orbiting the Giant Hairball. I know it's a weird titled book, but it's one of my favorites. And it's by a guy named Gordon McKenzie who spent his career at Hallmark. And he is a sketch artist, or was a sketch artist. He's no longer living. But his book talks about how we de-genius our kids. Because when they're in first grade, they all are geniuses. They're all artists. They're all talented. They all raise their hands when they're asked, how many of you are artists? And then you get to second grade, and fewer raise their hand. You get to third grade, even fewer raise their hands. And by the time they get to sixth grade, nobody wants to raise their hand to say, I am an artist. Because they look around and see what everybody else is going to say. And people become more worried about what other people think of them than they are owning their own greatness. And that rips off the world. It really does. Because then whoever has the most followers, or whoever has the most influence, or has the most money, or the most power or prestige, becomes the one to set the standard for everyone else. And that is such a waste of amazingness that we've allowed ourselves to get to. And it's not anybody's fault. It's just that once we take a look at where we are, and we look around and go, what's missing? That if it were present would make a positive difference in the world. And because we never stop long enough to even ask that question, we find ourselves chasing something, the back of someone else. We're chasing the back of someone else. We don't even know what we're doing. We're following something that we're not even sure what it is. It's just that we have huge FOMO, fear of missing out. And that is where I wanted to kind of talk today. I wanted to point that out. I've done it. I've been on the treadmill, or as we talked this past weekend with one of my clients, the hamster wheel of things, where we're in such pursuit of something. Many times we don't even know what that something is. It's just that everybody's running in that direction, so I better run in that direction too. And as we get on that hamster wheel and keep it going, we never have time to actually allow whatever it is we're chasing to find us. I know that sounds weird, that if you stop running, you might find that what you're pursuing is actually hoping to catch up with you. This is what occurred to me a couple weeks ago when I started to understand the distinction between the act of thinking, which is a verb, which is a doing, the act of thinking compared to, I suppose, or versus the art of thought. And if we would stop running long enough, the thoughts could occur to us. They can't find us when we're running after them. So there's an art to thought. There's an art to slowing down and allowing things to come to us. But we've been conditioned for so long that that's lazy. You got to go pursue it. You got to go find your dream and chase it. Chase it down. Run after it. Do the hard work. Hustle. Grind. Get after it, everybody. Get out there. And I've been in that space too. I've been in that belief that if you're not chasing after it, you don't want it badly enough. You're not willing to do what it takes. Who says? Compared to what? There's something out there that decided this is the way we do it, and if what calls to me in my heart is not that, then I must be wrong. That's the story that ran my life for far too long. Says who? Says who? Who made up that rule? Every rule we've ever had in our whole lives has been made up by someone. The system that says you need to make 500 calls to get 100 people to answer, to get 50 people to say yes, to get 20 people, whatever it is, whatever the numbers are, whatever your conversion rates of things are, somebody made up a rule somewhere. Somebody made up a standard. Somebody made up an average. And we're in such pursuit of average that everything's coming down to average. And we're losing all of our uniqueness, all of our abilities, all of the art of things. So just consider. I'm not here to tell anybody what to do, but consider what would happen if you stopped chasing. If you stopped for just a second and said, what actually am I running after? What actually am I in such fear of missing out on? What is it that I've made an agreement in my mind that someone knows something better than I do? What is that? And if you stop and go, wait a second, I don't even think I want that. I don't even think that's what I would chase if I knew what I was doing. I just got on this hamster wheel and never stopped. I wonder what I would do if I made the rules, if I made my own decisions, if I let myself allow a thought to come to me. In that space is where the magic happens. In that space allowed, off the treadmill or the hamster wheel or wherever you find yourself running and chasing, in that space is where we can breathe, is where we can allow, it's where we can notice and ponder and communicate and invite and create and innovate. It's in the space of things, not in the pursuit of things. What if we just stopped and looked around and said, never occurred to me that this could be different. And if it never occurred to you, then how would it be possible that anything other than what you think you've been pursuing could occur for you? The magic happens in the space. Let's allow some space. Let's see what would happen, just for a week. See what would happen if you stopped looking at what you're not and started noticing what you are. You're not too old. You're not too fat. You're not too small. You're not too big. You're not too anything. TOO. You're you. You're perfect. Exactly the way you are. To allow the dreams and ideas and thoughts to come to you. You're not TOO, so that you can allow things to come TO. You. So just some thoughts today to ponder, to create dialogue around, to take a breath. Just see, just notice. And as always, get real. Talk to you again. Thanks, everybody.